What's up everyone, Nick here at Mad Hatter. So I'm going to go through a brief tutorial on how I like to set up the center line of a chassis so I can center up the engine, get it parallel in the chassis, get it offset to one side or the other. Couple simple tools: plumb bob, tape measure, and you either need a really long straight edge or I just like to use a laser because it projects it very well front to back and then up the front of the engine, so that'll help a little bit as well. So yeah, this engine is mounted in there. It's slightly offset to the passenger side by about 3/16, which is absolutely fine. So yeah, I'll go through it. So at the front of the car, I'm going to wrap around the control arm because they're equal side to side. Some people will hassle me for that. That's the way I'm going to do it for this. It'll be fine. The only other way is to take the suspension completely apart, drop it through one of the control arm holes, but this will do just fine. This K-member has been squared up in the chassis front to back, side to side, so it's good there. I'm going to drop a plumb bob down, make a mark on the other side, come and make my center line mark, and then move to the back. Alright, so at the back it gets interesting because I have a 2003 Cobra IRS in the car, which is going to stay in the car. So there's two arguments to do this. The first argument is do it off the body of the car, not the frame. I'm not going to do it that way because this has 4 points of contact that's bolted solid to the chassis. It's not coming out, so I consider it part of the chassis. So I'm going to take my center line measurement off of that, which I just lined up the string on the front control arm bolt, dropped it down, made a mark, which was a pain because you need like 3 arms to do that. Now I made a mark in the center. As you can see, I have a 1, 2, 3 block sitting right at the square point, the point right at the center line. So that'll come in handy later. But yeah, given that it's an IRS and it's mounted front to back solid in the chassis, in my opinion, that is more than fine to use that as to find your center line rather than use the body. So, all right, now let's move forward. And this is where the laser comes in very handy. It projects a line front to back the whole way as long as the ground is fairly level. So the reason I have that 1, 2, 3 block is, I don't know if you can see it, but with the laser just coming across the edge back there and then having it lined up on my mark that I made up here, it gives me a better reference by myself to know that I should be on the center line in the back. I do go back there and double check when I think it's good, but after I got that done, I shut the laser off. Well, I make a mark up here and I shut the laser off. That's in front of the crank for the engine. Then I come to the back, I make another center line underneath the tail shaft of the transmission, so that's going to help me center it side to side. Now I do have a Stifler's Crossmember in the car, so that's going to generally center the rear, and then the front I'm going to just match that as best I can. So alright, so back to the front of the car. I leveled this out. I did have a 4x4 under there underneath the oil pan with a scissor jack on each side, and then I level it out side to side on that. Once I have that done, I'm going to drop a plumb bob from the center line of the crank, which is kind of a pain when you're one person. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to measure where it's at versus the center line of the car. I will go back to the underneath the car behind the transmission. Do that off the output shaft. Lots of back and forth, lots of your knees hating you, lots of your back hating you, lots of wishing you had 3 hands, but when you're doing this alone, you kind of have to do what you got to do. So I think I mentioned it before, this is about 3/16 off center to the passenger side, which is fine. They're usually offset to the passenger side because of steering and all that stuff. So yeah, that's a quick tutorial on how to set up the Centerline of your chassis and get your engine parallel in it. If you have any questions, make a comment and we'll do the best we can to answer.